All right. Good evening, everybody. We are, we all in our places, swap seats. The Home Rule School District Charter Commission is now in session. The Home Rule Charter School District Commission, appointed by the Dallas Independent School District Board of Trustees, is holding its meeting tonight, Monday, January 5th, 2015. We are starting at 6:15, 15 minutes late to accommodate the new year and some technology issues that we are remediating. In the boardroom at the Dallas ISD Central Administration Building, 3700 Ross Avenue, Dallas, Texas, 75204. The agenda has been duly posted, and this is our first order of business. Let's establish a quorum. We'll start with Commissioner Freeman and work to my left. If you'll say your name and present.
Isaac Freeman, present.
Stephanie Elizalde, present.
Julie Sandell, present.
Benita Reese, present.
DeMarcus Ranger, present.
Lou Blackburn Jr., present.
Ricardo Mendez, present.
Ron Oliver, present.
Bob Weiss, present.
Jeff Veazey, present.
Edwin Flores, present. Kevin Malonzo, present.
We have a quorum, and the meeting can proceed. Commissioner Garza is working the room as he joins us. And he has done that very artfully, let the record show. Could you just state your name and that you're present?
Jerome Garza, present.
We have one excused absence. Commissioner Gutierrez is traveling and will not be at our meeting today. If everyone will rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This is part of the script. I have a New Year's resolution to make sure everyone is properly recognized. So, all those, I'm trying, I'm not going to say I'm not going to break it, all those who are currently elected in any way, would you please raise your hand so we can acknowledge you? We have Trustee Corman. Is there anyone from the county school district? Anyone from county government, city government, state reps? All right. Thank you for your service. We appreciate it. And I want to recognize any family members here. Commissioner Veazey, do you want to say hello to someone? Get a special shout out.
Wow, that's very nice of you. I appreciate that. My son Liam Veazey, BISD graduate, is here and really wanted to attend this. I appreciate it.
So we're glad to have you. Oh, yes. We have another trustee, Trustee Jones, and a park board member. Did I see Mr. Jones is here as well? Pardon me?
Former trustee Ken Zorns.
Okay, I didn't see. Oh, there he is. Former trustee Ken Zorns. Thank you. He's had his head down. All I saw was the top of his head. You didn't recognize him. Anyone else before we move forward? All right. I want to thank everyone coming out tonight, and Happy New Year, and I hope your holidays were safe and full of peace and enjoyment. And our next order of business is the approval of the minutes from our December 15th meeting. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Garza has moved. Commissioner Ranger has seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody. So that comes to our general discussion, and as we left the meeting on December 15th, there was a sense that I got from each of you that rather than calling for any specific votes on our direction, we would spend tonight sharing our thoughts and ideas about how to proceed. As you recall, at the 15th meeting, including tonight, we were left with basically 12 meetings that we have posted and scheduled through June 19th, which is our absolute cutoff. Commissioner Ranger was kind enough to propose a way forward with a specific motion, actually two parts, that you had a chance to look over. Many of you have talked to me about how you thought we might proceed. Do we do recommendations? Do we not? Do we move forward? Do we not? How would we vote on that? When I got back in town on the 30th, late at night, on the 31st, I sent you an email trying to suggest some ways to go forward. Part of the email was gently reminding each of us that our DISD account is for the purpose of the work of the Charter Commission, and that we need to be cognizant of the Texas Open Meeting Act and how we exchange information beyond the courtesies and the things that we need to do. And in that email, and for the record, I want to thank Commissioner Ranger and Commissioner Flores, who were more expert in this. And I will say I was on my way out the door. And as I told you when I started this as chair in the summer of last year, when I'm on family time, I really don't do this work. And I was unapologetic back in the summer when I left for Sweden, and I was in Virginia, New Jersey, and for the record, until I got back into town, I didn't really pay much attention. I know it's a vital concern to the city of Dallas, but it wasn't to my family in the East Coast. And so I want to frame up some of the questions I heard that I shared in the email. That is the basic question of, what do you need to know as commissioner to come to some decision about whether or not we want to do a charter? And depending on how that is answered, how do we then bring that to some resolution through a motion and possibly a vote of some sort? I had told you in December 15th that I had scheduled in my own mind the 20th meeting to at least make some what-if decision so we would know whether or not how to move forward. Then the secondary set of questions is, depending on how that was answered, was then going to be recommendations or a charter, and if it's not to be a charter, do we still move forward to try to attempt to lay down recommendations to the school board? There was a difference of opinion, but we kind of ran out of time about how that would work or not work. And then, as I indicated, if we're going to move forward, the question is, how do we do that? In my opinion, our little work groups have been less than successful. Everyone has been busy. You teachers are swamped, and I include Commissioner Lozada in that. And so, and then we have our own careers. And as the retiree, perhaps with one other person here, I don't see writing a document devolving to me as the chair. So one of the things I hope we can put on the table and have a discussion tonight, if that is a sense that we want to keep thinking about that, how would that actually work? And so, and the last thing I just said is the media question. I have appreciated you respecting me to be the chair and to deal officially. It's been with the media. It's been my position not to stifle your conversations or if you are asked to comment. And I think for the most part, you have identified yourselves as, I'm a member, but I'm not representing the group officially. And I think that's an important distinction. I did not know about the editorial that appeared until I got back into town. And it's occurred to me that as we move forward, we will be back in the public spotlight. And so you do not have to feel that you need to respond. If you get an inquiry from the media, if you'd like to direct it to me, it's fine. If you do, I just ask on behalf of all of us that you make it clear that you are talking for yourself and that the official position of the commission is what's reflected in the body of our work. And again, I appreciate to date everybody doing that. And the last thing I want to say, because I have expert, wise people, this ISD email account is for the work of the commission, and I'll just leave it like that. If you want to communicate about your feelings about this work, if you have your own email account and want to just represent yourself or to a constituency, we need to be clear that it's not our job to be engaged in the issues of the district. Our work is to be concerned about what we do here as a commission and deciding about whether or not to advance a home rule charter. So having said that, I want to end my introductory comments by saying I'm very pleased with how this has gone. I said that on the 15th, and I want to open the meeting with that. I reflected when I got back into town how important the work we've been doing, how well it's gone, how the process has had integrity. Every voice has been heard, whether we agreed with it or not. I think our questioning of everybody who's come before us has been civil. The questions have been astute. I know you've been frustrated with me about limiting him sometimes, but nonetheless, I think in 6 months, we've heard a broad range of opinion. We've gotten a lot of documents, and you have each, as far as I can tell, been very engaged in the process. And as chair, I thank you for that. So I don't have a specific question other than what I try to email. We need to get a sense, so I have a sense of what to do on the 20th about, are we ready to come to some decision about yes or no? And if it's yes or no, again, we're not voting tonight, how to do that. And then do we move forward with recommendations? And if that is the case, how then, in fact, would that actually work? Since we have been in work groups around 4 topics. Let's remember, one was governance, one was accountability and health, one was education, and one was budget and audit. And I did not convene the budget and audit until I thought we would get further along with the other 3, but it's been hard to get everyone to attend, and we've had to cancel some meetings, and there's no blame or around that. It's just everyone has a full-time job. We are unelected volunteers. And for that, we should be appreciative of each other. So, with that long-winded introduction, trying to start the new year off on an upbeat note, I am open to suggestions about how each of you feel, again, that we could go forward. Again, we can vote on the 20th. We can decide on recommendations. We can, and they're independent. If we say yes or no to a charter, we then would do a charter. If we say no, just using Commissioner Ranger's draft as an example, then it still doesn't mean we could not then move forward with a series of recommendations that we could turn to the school district using the time that we have left, assuming we can find a way to actually do that work with the time that people are willing to give to the process. So I'm going to open the floor up. Commissioner Vesey, you want to start the conversation off? I know you've been thinking about this, like the rest of us.
Well, I had something prepared that I was going to distribute, but the process of thinking continues, and talking to people. What I would like to say is one of the questions that you ask us, Mr. Chairman, is whether or not we had enough information to proceed. And I would like to say that while I have been very vocal about being against a charter throughout this process, I think that when we started this, that we also took a responsibility to represent not just our personal beliefs, but the community at large. And I know Commissioner Flores submitted, and some others submitted rather lengthy lists of people that would be good expert speakers for us. We haven't heard from a lot of those. We haven't heard from any of those, I don't think, especially on the side of how a charter might actually work, and where the charters may be working. I am of the mind at this point that, I personally don't feel that I have fulfilled my responsibility as a commissioner yet. I have my opinion, but I don't have, and I am still set in that opinion, but I don't feel that we have really given, and I don't know if we need, maybe one of the committees that we should have formed would have been a presentation committee, so that all the work did not fall on the chair or on Mr. Harris or whoever else is helping this process. But I do feel that that there are people who could have spoken to us and who could have presented to us that might have helped us even helped us form a stronger opinion one way or the other that we may have. So in that way, I don't feel that we have done I think we have done a great job of listening to the community. I think we have done a great job of listening to each other. I don't think that we have necessarily had the presentations that would guide us in knowing some things about home rule that we may not have known and may not have heard from anyone else. I don't know that I'm in favor of shutting down this process now. I feel like I might, but I worry that any recommendations that we come up with after a vote to say that we're not writing a charter won't be taken seriously. I was told by a trustee that they might help, they might not be helpful. It didn't sound like our voice would be nearly as strong as if we continue the consideration of writing a charter. To that end, I will say a couple of things. When I came on the Home Rule Commission, I came with several ideas in mind: to honor the process and to listen, to remember that presentation to the commission would not necessarily represent all of the stakeholders, to try to get as much information locally from experts as possible, but to also listen to people who have built entire careers trying to improve education and with the best of intentions. I came on, one of my own personal goals was to try to find ways to re-energize SBDM so that communities and teachers were respected and heard in the process better than they have been. One of our very first meetings, we heard from people who say that they were never welcome at schools or that they were not welcome in the process. I wanted to find a way to convey the importance of the whole community being engaged as an essential tool in closing the achievement gap, to foster an appreciation of what education can offer our children, to engage parents and community in volunteering in support of the schools, using nonprofits and training in the community as teacher aides, mentors, and tutors. I wanted to increase democracy and decrease authoritarianism. We don't just have an achievement gap. We have a governance administrative gap where the community feels disconnected from the schools. Because for almost my entire life, this place has been called Ross Avenue. There's no address affixed. It's not the school administration avenue. It's not the school administration building. It's Ross Avenue. As if this place takes up the entire street. And anybody who knows anything about education in this town knows that Ross Avenue is the place where everything happens, and that is wrong. And I wanted to work to help I think that's the reason you don't have parents involved in the school. I think that is the reason. It is because this place has been so authoritarian, so top-heavy, administrative, so locked out against people in the community that we have this mess we're in. The mess being faced with writing a charter about something that we have no idea if it would work or if it would improve outcomes for our children, or getting into a political tussle about race politics in this city, or just maintaining the status quo and hoping that we really are on a better track. The core principles for me were to have an inspired, committed, respected workforce, to have engaged students and parents who understand the value and the importance of school for college readiness and for workforce-bound students. I wanted lean, nimble, competitive, cooperative administration and governance structure that relies on a more horizontal, less vertical management structure to assure educational planning. And I want a community that votes, supports, and participates in public schools because it recognizes all of the benefits of public education and what an educated class of citizens, less crime, higher property values, more economic opportunity bring to the city. So my thinking, and it's not a position and it's not a proposal, it's a brainstorming possibility, was, and so you can see that I've been thinking a lot over Christmas. I'm getting close to the Lou Blackburn Jr. length of my diatribe here, so I'm going to read it.
Make note, yeah, though there's no gavel, I will use my pen.
But
There's 14 other.
originally, I had seen home rule as a way that private business and interest groups, oh no, I'm sorry.
Okay, you just gave up your
I
time.
did. I am so sorry. No, but I would be interested to hear more from those experts that I was talking about, because what if home rule stood the whole home rule law and effort on its head and used it to actually take back Dallas schools from the privatization crowd? What if a charter based on SBDM feeder patterns could expand the school board to 22 or 23 members? Because if the legislature is going to act and force home rule on us in a way that doesn't reflect the values of this community, perhaps it behooves us to consider taking a look at how we could increase democracy, increase respect for teachers, increase teacher input into the issues that we face through a process where community schools are the model, and democracy is increased in the district by forcing that participation at the grassroots. Because SBDM feeder patterns, if they were the nominating bodies for school board seats, would be controlled by the people who actually know something about education. Parents and teachers and administrators and people who are passionate about education. As I said, this is not a proposal, but I am one of those people who, when you are brainstorming, there are no bad ideas. And I think that we could at least, to know that we had looked at it and said to ourselves, we really looked at a charter. We didn't just listen to everything that the interest groups had to present to us. When we looked at it from an expert's point of view. Now, can I just have one more minute? I did look a little bit at the Boston model, and I noticed recently that President Obama called the governor of Massachusetts and congratulated him on the fantastic progress in the Massachusetts schools. And Boston's mayor took 4 years to work on getting people in a position where they would accept home rule, and it only passed 51 to 49%. But what they had there was they had a commission, teachers unions, stakeholders, people, real people at the tables, people that were a commission that came up with a slate of trustees. I'm interested in more democracy. I'm not interested in 300 or 400 people showing up for an election and nobody really caring because nothing ever changes on Ross Avenue. So thank you for your time, Mr. Commissioner. I probably won't say anything else the rest of tonight.
Yeah, right.
But but I did want to share that I had really thought a lot over Christmas holidays because I want to be fair to the process and the people in the district.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Ranger.
first of all, Happy New Year to all the colleagues on the commission. To our esteemed colleague who just gave us a very legitimate and very thoughtful presentation on why we should perhaps, for lack of a better term, be more deliberate in our attempt to come to this conclusion. That was exactly where I stood whenever it was we started, June 19th. I wanted to take the whole year, take as much time as we could possibly take. I think I better shorthand this because I don't want to use up all of it. But that was exactly where I was. I didn't want to do anything until the very last moment because I thought that if we went all around the city, that we would get the maximum input into this very momentous question. This is a fire bell. Somebody is setting fire here. You're about to blow up an organization that has been in existence since 1884. Mm-hmm. You don't do that on a whim. You do it on a very, hopefully deliberate, very well thought out process. Now, the frame for me is not home rule. To me, that's phony. To me, that's a fraud. This is not about home rule. This is about a movement to convert an independent school district into a charter school district. Mrs. Truth had 3 sons. One was called the Truth. The second was called the Whole Truth. But the third was called Nothing But the Truth. And I happen to like nothing but the truth.
Come on now, Mark.
Now, we don't get nothing but the truth just in listening to presentations. You have to, really dig into the stuff for yourself. Now, what I have dug into, it makes me very concerned about the fact that we would even consider, after having gone through the hearings that we've gone through, which would have taken for me a whole year. I would have done that in a year. And so it was suggested that we do it, as expeditiously as possible, and we did. And I think I both learned from that process, understood what the community was saying, but I didn't hear any support for such a radical idea, such a radical notion. But let me just abbreviate my comment at the moment. I am a member of the school of thought that says, what is in plain English, I pay attention to. My interpretation of things, if something is said in plain English, I tend to go for the plain English understanding and interpretation of it. Now here's the deal for me. On June 19th of 2014, we were appointed by the Dallas ISD Board of Trustees. Every single one of us, we were not appointed as individuals, we were appointed collectively by the whole board. Unanimously appointed all of us to do this task. They gave us a resolution. To me, this is the whole truth. What is in this document? This resolution sets out the limits of our authority. It sets out our mission. It sets out the purpose why we're here. And it defines exactly what we're supposed to do. And what it says in here, I think, for me, because I do believe in law, I do believe in process and procedures, the Texas Education Code says basically the same thing. Now, my interpretation of what I'm seeing in this document is that we have a very limited function here. And I would invite every commissioner to go back and revisit the resolution that was adopted on June 19th 2014 by the Dallas ISD Board of Trustees, which sets out our authority, exactly what we're supposed to do. Now, the only thing I would say is this. If the authority to do a specific thing is not in this document, then my position is we don't have it. Because it was the board that appointed us, and they did it based upon legal recommendations. They based upon the Texas Education Code and the input that they received at that level. I remember the night Attorney Thompson was talking to the board and they asked him the question, is it mandatory that we do a charter? He said no. He said we do not have to do a charter. We will have the authority to make that decision. So the board wrote this resolution. And what I see in this resolution is a very limited authority. We do not have the authority to amend the Texas Education Code. We don't have the authority to amend this resolution. We're supposed to be following exactly what this says. And all this says is our mission is to charter or not to charter. There's not one word in here about recommendations. The board didn't ask us to make recommendations to the board. The board did not authorize us to make recommendations to the board. The board authorized us to make one decision to determine whether or not Dallas ISD should be chartered or not. And that is our sole purpose here. Now, I'm not of the mind that we should just make it up because I have a personal decision, that I want this, and this at Dallas ISD. I am the most anti-authoritarian person you will ever meet. So when you talk about doing something about authoritarianism, you and I need to start an army to do that because I believe in that. We need a process that is open and our teachers need to be free. But my mission here is to charter or not to charter. And I believe we've gotten a certain amount of input. I think we can make that decision, but I would caution this commission about amending the Texas Education Code and making up our own agenda because it's not in here. If it's in here, I challenge anyone. Show me in here where it says that we're supposed to make recommendations, that we're supposed to make a report. Show it to me in the Texas Education Code. It's not here. And if you have it, please let me know.
Okay. So let's just, it's quarter of, we didn't put any self-imposed time limits and try to make this as freewheeling as possible. So use your own judgment, all right? And you'll get another round. Who would like to go next? Commissioner Sandell.
I want to say that both Commissioner Veazey and Commissioner Ranger have made me rethink some of my ideas. And I know that Ms. Eisen-Newsom and I have talked about having experts. We never got that going. That would be very valuable to me. As they both talk about it, I'm starting to think I don't have enough information to decide whether I do or do not want a charter. And I feel very uncomfortable at making a drop-dead decision on January 20th. I would like to see us take all our time and be very deliberate. We speeded it up so we could hear a lot of different people, but we never at any point said we had to start writing anything in January. That was just maybe an idea. I would like to rethink work groups, have some of us in different ones that we want to think about what we want to find out about the charter. There's still stuff I do not understand. I also would like those people who have information to let us know what's happening in the legislature. What's being discussed? What's going on? Does it affect us? Do we need to care? Is it some big deal? I am not that up on that, but I know there are people that are, and it'd be interesting to hear their input about kind of how our process and that process may work together. But I would like to see us be more deliberate. I don't want to rush something. I would feel awful if I voted one way or the other and then in March said, I didn't have information, I was just deciding something, because I also don't want to just do my opinion. I am trying to be really inclusive with all of the employees of the district because they don't have to write it down, I don't have to tell them their name, but I'm trying to bring things forth. I'd like to see more of that, and maybe, I don't know. We've heard what parents want and teachers want and this and that, but maybe some experts like the Boston people might be able to give us some idea of what would be a positive thing. for a charter? What could we do that'd be positive? Nothing to do with that document we got from whoever made that up. I don't even particularly want to follow that form or anything, but I would like a lot more information, and as they speak, I am feeling less and less comfortable about making any kind of decision quickly.
Okay. Who would like to be recognized next? Anybody? I'll hear Commissioner Isenhuis.
I'll go next. Thank you. Happy New Year to everyone. Happy 2015. Just a couple of thoughts. Firstly, I would want to say that I was surprised that we were even going to be talking about making a decision in January. It was my understanding as we set out the work that we were going to hear from the community, hear from teachers, hear from interest groups, and then work within our subcommittees to get the experts and to come back with recommendations to the full body from those subcommittees. I haven't heard one report from a subcommittee yet, so I don't know if we're in a position to even talk about taking some definitive action on January the 20th or whenever, when we haven't even heard from the various subcommittees. So that's the first thing I would want to note. The second thing that I would want to note is that we were given a full year for a reason. This has not been done before in the state of Texas. And I think that we are duty bound to give it our due diligence with both time and effort, and using our best thinking, using the best thinking of others, so that when we do give consideration to charter or not to charter, recommendations or not to recommend something, that we're in a position to do so based on solid ground. The third thing I would want to note, and I have a great deal of respect for Marcus Ranger, have had for years. He's a brilliant man. Probably would have been mayor at some point. There was talk about that years ago. But I do have to depart with this thinking about the resolution and what we are called to do. Resolution is just that, it's a resolution. And because it does not in the law, because the law doesn't say that you can do something, when it does not say that you can't do something, doesn't mean that we can't do it, that we don't have the opportunity to do it. I feel duty bound after hearing from citizens and everybody else, hearing the cries from the people about what might help this district, to make recommendations to the board. And Jeff, I don't care whether they take it or not. I don't make my decisions based on what somebody else might do. It has to be done based on what I feel on principle must be done. So I do think we need to have some discussion around, if we don't charter, what do we do with all this information? Do we just leave it up in the air and say, people, thank you, we heard you, but so what? That leaves a very, very bad taste in my mouth. I believe very strongly in the democratic form of government. It is the best that this world has ever known to date. And I agree with Jeff that if we don't take the opportunity, we took an oath of office. And I take that oath very seriously. And I also take my commitment to children very seriously. I don't think, Mr. Chair and fellow commissioners, that we're at a point where we can even make a decision until we have more information, until we hear from the subcommittees that we charted to bring back information. Mr. Chair, that concludes my remarks.
Thank you.
For this first round. Thank you.
All right. Who would like to go next? To my right? No? Not yet. Commissioner Flores. Okay. Commissioner Carson.
I prefer to listen.
Everyone wants to be a good listener. We might have a short meeting. Who? No? Commissioner Freeman? All right. Commissioner Blackburn?
I'll always take an opportunity.
But remember, no one else has yielded their time to you.
I actually don't need much time. I echo what Jeff said. The majority of what he said, probably all of it. I just don't remember all of it. He talked so long.
All right. That's the one humor for the evening.
But I agree with
But no, he accepted that graciously.
I appreciate that. I don't mean any fight. But I agree that there is still information to be had, and who's dinging me now? But
It's Ross Avenue. It's everywhere.
Second humor. for
Those
the evening.
seniors in the back pressing the button.
might be. But I agree with what Ms. Sandell and Commissioner Isom Newsom have said in that we may still be, or I feel like we're lacking some information, in particular the academic information. We have some, it's available out on the internet as far as those speakers. And I believe a lot of the speakers that were on the list of recommendations, we'd even said that they would likely speak to the subcommittees where their expertise was pertinent. And so we haven't gotten to that for one reason or another, as you say, that of no particular fault anywhere. I also think that a big piece of this, even when you say whether to charter or not to charter, and I leave myself open to being wrong every day. But in this case, to me, it's a matter of, hey, either we like our school district being governed by the Texas Education Code, or we don't. And there's still a piece, and I'm working on it independently, and I'd love to see us do something collectively, whether in subcommittees or whatever, whereas we say, hey, there are pieces, and I don't know, we probably cannot go line by line through the education code, but there are pieces of this where we say, is there any type of alternative? And then vigorously debate those alternatives so that at the end of the day, at the end of June 19th, we do know, hey, we talked about it and here's the way we decided to go and here's why, as opposed to, no, we stayed away from that. But yeah, that's what I look at, and even in terms of hearing from the whole community, and when we discussed going around to all of the board districts and possibly even doing it twice, also having, individual commissioners go out and speak to different groups, which we always have that opportunity, but that time to, whether we're taking a second round or having individual meetings, I don't know that we've heard from the whole community, that we've gotten the whole community engaged. I really hope we do get more attention, that our work gets more attention, so that more people can be involved in the discussion about public education. We may not fully be there yet, but to summarize, I agree with Commissioner Vesey.
Okay. Let me just see if there's someone else, and I'll get back to you, Commissioner.
Yes, I too
Thank you.
feel like we don't have enough information. And I think we dishonor the students, the parents, and the citizens of the city to abruptly stop when we really just now started the conversation among the commissioners. And in terms of what we know and don't know, I know that I independently don't know enough information about what could assist the district. And in terms of recommendations, I'm not sure legally. Not everyone agreed at the meetings we've had with Mr. Thompson. I don't think there's any law here that we got pinned down to a point where we can be absolutely sure about anything. So for me, if the process continues, no harm. My concern is, why is there such an immediacy to stopping the process? That is a concern. And I'm always concerned when people give me deadlines, because deadlines are some construed threat that you have to work around, or some configuration of an idea that someone else has about something needs to be done mandatorily at a certain time. And for me, I thought this whole process was about to learn as much as we could about the information out there available to us to assist this district to become the most powerful district in the nation. I thought that was the whole idea. Now, I know the charter doesn't necessarily mirror that exactly, but if we can do anything to assist our children, the children that I teach daily, to become better citizens and better students, I'm all for it. And I want to continue the process. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Who has?
I'd like to say a couple of things.
Please.
Anyway. All right. Well, when I started this process, I didn't know anything. I'll be completely honest. I didn't know anything about home rule charter. I came here blank, completely blank. I listened to both sides, whether we would have a charter or not. And I agree with everyone here when we say that if we stop this process, we're not doing our duties. I have a really high stake here, and that's my children at school. That's the reason why I took on this job, and whatever decision I make here is going to affect them. Now, if we stop now, what's going to happen to all the information we gather? And if we write recommendations, who's to say they're going to be taken serious? We have several groups here that brought recommendations to us that probably took the recommendations to the school district, and we still have the same problems. So my opinion is to continue to get more information and continue this process until the end of June.
Okay. Who hasn't? Yeah, let me just see if there's someone's ready to speak. All right, we get a first round. I will get back to you before we...
Well, Robert's Rules of Order, we do have the right to request the floor.
Yeah, you do, and I'm not disagreeing with your request.
Well, it's remembering all of this because, we're getting different points.
All right, yeah, I understand. I'm just trying to give everyone who's hesitant, and you're next if I don't see any hands. Commissioner?
Yeah, I guess I just do need to make a point to be on record here. I'm generally the kind of person that follows the directions that have been given. So to prep for this meeting, I went over the questions that you sent us. So I'm going to give those answers to those questions, and we can go on like that so I can be on the record. The question one was, have you heard enough information to decide if the home rule charter, if writing a home rule charter is what we want to do? The answer is yes. Home rule charter is the purview of adults. My job and my life has been devoted to affecting outcomes, positive outcomes for children. And so I can say on the record that I haven't seen anything from a home rule charter, or I haven't seen anything that has to be on a home rule charter to help these students. A lot of the recommendations that we've heard from these speakers, and I hope I can speak for the rest of this group. I study this like I'm in graduate school. I read all this stuff that we've got. I read a whole heck of a lot more. And I hope the rest of us are doing that. And so to say we don't have enough knowledge to make even a cursory decision at this point, to me, is either disingenuous or lazy.
Let me just say, I'm gonna let you.
Well, Bob,
I
Mr. Chair,
understand. I understand that, but we've been very good about not personalizing.
No, I'm not personalizing these folks at all.
No, but the commission, we're in front of you're disingenuous or lazy. It's a gentle admonition. Commissioner.
Thank you, I accept that. Your second question was, would we like to make recommendations? Again, like I said, I read a whole heck of a lot. People are saying a lot about this stuff. I'm just not 100% sure if we make recommendations that folks are going to be listening. And I'm not 100% sure, like people on this commission have said, that we are so, I don't think we need a whole heck of a lot of spotlight. I don't want this committee, I don't need everybody to be watching me do these things here. I think we need to follow the rules, do the job that we've been asked to do, and move on that way. If it's to take a year, I'm for that. Let the record state that I've been in every single meeting except for one when I was in Tennessee speaking on behalf of the United Negro College Fund. And so, if you come to every single meeting and take this stuff seriously and recognize that we're spending these children's money every time we come here, I think we're at a point to make some cursory decisions.
Okay, I appreciate that. Can I just get back to Commissioner Ranger?
Does anyone else wish to speak?
Yeah.
Mr. Freeman raised his hand.
Okay, and Commissioner Flores. So thank you, Commissioner Ranger, for yielding. Commissioner Freeman.
So I guess from the outset, one of the frustrations I've had with this process, first of all, like I said before, it's been an eye-opening process. I've loved hearing from a lot of the speakers, but I guess I'm a very analytical person, and I like to hear details of how things work or don't work, and I feel like we've heard a lot of, what people want to happen, and we've heard a lot of statements about, this is good, or this is bad, or we can do this now, and I have yet to hear a lot of how. There's a lot of the what and the why. There's very little that I feel like I haven't heard enough of the how of this whole process. So, I get that there are people who are against the Home Rule Charter. I get that there are people that support it. I have yet to see anything that I feel conclusive enough of, the many, many statements of, we support this idea, but it can be done now. but there has been very little of here's the avenue for how this can be done now. Likewise, on the other side, I would love to hear, like, previous commissioners have mentioned, I feel like we haven't talked enough about, the efficacy of a home rule charter versus, independent school district. We haven't talked enough about what specific changes if we were to go forward, what specific changes could we make that would have the highest leverage? I feel like we've talked a lot about big ideas and big initiatives and big concepts and big dreams for the district, but we haven't really gotten down to the nitty-gritty of what a home rule charter, in the text could actually look like. And for me, that's the distinction and that's the difference between whether or not I would support or not support a charter. Because you can title something the Early Childhood Education Act, but if the details of it are, written in a way that actually, obfuscates the process of making it useful, then obviously you couldn't support something even if it's got a nice name to it, and vice versa. I feel like we haven't gotten into enough of what is the, how is the sausage being made before I could reasonably make a decision of whether or not I'd want to move forward. I would love to hear some speakers that could speak to specific elements of the Texas Education Code, like digging in deep, specific things to people who maybe, like we said, from Boston, who have gone through this process, or looking at the data of its effectiveness, even maybe looking at their charter, looking at other charters to see what works and what hasn't worked and what levers can be pulled, etc. Because I think before you can make a decision like this, you got to look at, the specifics, not just the big picture ideas. And I guess that's where I stand, is I want to hear more of specifically what could we do, what should we do in an actual document, not just big picture ideas, if that makes sense.
Okay. Commissioner Flores, and then
So first of all, I have to apologize. Well, happy New Year to all. It's great to be here. I have to apologize. I didn't get the chance to look at the questions, Mr. Chair, because my DSD email was up down, and Dino is in the process of fixing it.
yeah.
So I apologize. I don't have immediate answers to kind of go down the list. Now, on the question of what I've heard from some of on the question of do we have enough information? Now, I think to echo a lot of the sentiments, we haven't heard enough about alternative governance models to really know whether what we have is the best of the best, or could we come up with something different. The idea of a distributed decision-making model, kind of like New York City, where they kind of have a lot of input from a lot of different areas, or the appointed board that they have in Boston, and the process by which they go about doing that, or in New Jersey or in different places. There's a lot of research that has been done on these questions, and of course the ultimate question is, does it affect student achievement? So I think that that would be really important information, and I happen to have read a lot of that stuff, so I have my own opinions. Another question is, we've heard from a lot of individuals and I think Commissioner Vesey, interest groups, I think was maybe perhaps the term you used. That's the term I'm going to use. Who came to our meetings and who were there at every meeting, and we thank them for their participation and their input and their comments and their ideas. And I think that even from those otherwise kind of unitary interest groups, we did hear a lot of different ideas from them. And so I thought that was curious. But we have no survey data. We have nothing to tell us, And then the one group of folks I hadn't heard about so far, and I wanted to raise their existence, were the 49,000 people that signed these petitions. And regardless of what you think of how they were gathered or not gathered, at the end of the day they were gathered. At the end of the day they did force the Board of Trustees to appoint us, and we are selected. We aren't elected. Folks chose us. And so in that respect, I don't think that we can get all the information from every single interest group and every single individual, every single teacher, administrator, parent, kids, students, other stakeholders, taxpayers, government officials other than us, than the school district, elected government officials, and administrators. So from that point of view, and from just my experience having sat in one of these chairs and gone to 2 years of reform governance and action training, which Trustee Garza and I participated in, and he can, I'm sure, echo the amount of work that was involved. and the amount of time that was spent looking at, reform models for school districts. And that was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of our preparation, our participation, our going to these week-long meetings, weekend-long meetings, where you had to actually prepare before you went there. So these were pretty intense, and I just don't feel like we've been exposed as a group to enough information on the governance issues. Do we need to reform how we govern the school district? I mean, that's the whole idea of the charter. I mean, we can say, well, we want this part of the education code, we don't want that part of the education code, but at the end of the day, it's a question of governance. And it's a question whether this current model serves us best. Are there better models that could serve us better, or is this the best that there is? And we just have to live with it and figure out how to do a better job with what we have, and may continue to make incremental changes. Or do we want big, bold, new ideas, big ideas as to how we want to govern? Do we want a system where we have like a Congress and a Senate where we have it split into two? Do we want a system, will that help us to have some kind of checks and balances in the system where we could have feeder pattern level folks that get elected in one manner, and we have another group of folks that get elected at large by the community? Does switching to November elections make sense from a larger democracy, more people involved versus 300 to 1,500 folks? I really would like to listen to people's ideas and experts' ideas and the data of whether or not that works or doesn't work. So I think I'm echoing a lot of what I've heard, and I'm just letting you know that I've heard what you say and I agree with what you're saying. I think that if we're going to do, and the other thing finally is that if we do not move forward with some form of charter, and we devolve to like a recommendation, then I think that it's a positive outcome for our work. But there's no reason why anybody should have to listen to us. Again, we're just selected. We're not elected. And sorry, one second final comment is hey, I'm trying to outdo Lou and Jeff here.
Well, I gotta be in. I was first.
We're giving the...
Is that I am concerned about the cost and the administrative time. And, it is, and, it's the kids' money. And it always hurts me and pains me to use the kids' money for things that are not directly involved in the classroom. So to that extent, I understood when the chair brought up this meeting and the next meeting in January. It was really kind of a Fisher cut bait type decision. That today we would talk about, well, does it make sense to Fisher cut bait? And is January not a, we are ending this, it's we're continuing because we're going to do a home rule charter, or we're going to end it because there isn't enough interest in the home rule charter. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Yes. Who has not spoken? You're getting called on now like school here, Commissioner.
I see. Well, Happy New Year's to everybody. I too have thought about this process, and of course, just like everybody else, when I came in, I had my own ideas and interpretations of what I thought was going to happen. But this whole thing is just a coin. There's two sides to it. Are we going to do a charter? Are we going to make recommendations? We have to figure something out. While I don't have any children currently in this district, my children and I are products of this district. But every day that I go into my classroom, I co-parent all of the children that I teach. So whatever we do here, our work ultimately affects my children. Coming together in our subcommittees and hearing information that's vital to those different committees is important, whether we decide to make a charter or create recommendations. Because if this thing is going to work, either the charter or the recommendations, we need to be fully informed. We need to be aware, because ultimately, our decisions, whatever we decide, it affects our children, my children. I'd like to hear from some experts. Because my lunch today during staff development consisted of teachers still asking questions. If we become a charter, how's discipline going to be handled? I have a friend, she's always playing the devil's advocate. Create this charter, and then when whoever's in charge, when powers that be change hands, who's in charge of saying this doesn't change, or this does not change, or this does change? What happens when the commission's not here anymore? Then who decides? So I think we probably could benefit from hearing some experts to drive our decision, again, whether it's to make a charter or to make recommendations. I'd like to hear from some experts.
Okay. Who, I'm looking around, Commissioner Garza, have you heard enough? Ready to comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The purpose of, and Mr. Chairman, thank you for laying out the question. The question is do I have enough information to move forward and make a decision? And the decision Mr. Rangers put forward, that the Board of Trustees put, is do I have enough information to decide whether or not we should have a charter or not have a charter? Given 6 years of Board of Trustees and hundreds of hours of study and other things, a little bit more than many others around here, having gone to the public hearings and heard from the teachers, the parents, the students, from the students, and granted, that they have a perspective in what they believe, I think I am ready to make a decision on whether or not we need to either be an ISD or a charter. So, I feel very comfortable in making that decision. As a trustee and as a person in business and previously in banking, deadlines were all part of it. It's very important. You have to have a deadline, because if you have a goal, what is a goal? A goal is something with a deadline. So, we all have that. And in fact, our deadline is June of 2015. It doesn't mean you have to wait till then to make a decision. You can do it earlier if you're ready, or move forward. But if the decision of this group is to move forward with it, then in my mind, what we're saying is we're going to be writing a charter. And I just want to be very clear about that, because all the other areas and things that we've heard, they're all very important, and they are clearly problems that we face in this district. But many of those have been the prairie view of trustees. And as we talk about wanting to change different things here, that is the prairie view of our state senators and state reps. We are appointed people. Our deadline is we make a decision by June. Do we write a charter or do we not? And I just think that we got to keep it that basic. I'm very thankful to all the people that come to these meetings every time. And we just have to decide. Whether this charter moves forward or not, I'll still be there trying to help the kids and make a difference and help parents understand how their role is so vital, and how every time the parent shows up at school, that teacher gets so excited because they say, I got somebody with me now. We can make a difference. And that's what I have found has been the difference. The reason this district does so well is there are teachers out there that are committed to make a difference in lives. And I'm thankful every day I wake up and those teachers are there in school. As Commissioner Flores has said, does the governance support that? That's the real question in front of us. Does the current governance that the DISD is under support those teachers to do the jobs they need to do? Because as far as I'm concerned, and I said it when I was a trustee and could never do it, outside of the superintendents, assistant superintendents. The next highest paid person should be that principal, and then the teachers, and then everybody else. All administrators should be making underneath, because those teachers, who are their bosses? The children, the parents, the principal, and Ross Avenue. Excuse me, I love your joke. And as we look at administrators, they have the superintendent. So those teachers are under tremendous pressure, but you know what? I see smiles every time I walk in there. And when I was a trustee, the highlight of me being a trustee was the day those children graduated, because they said, I did it. And to a T, every graduation speech was, I want to thank this teacher. And then they want to thank their parents. But it was always a teacher. So the focus that my fellow commissioners have, I can't argue with it. It's right. But unfortunately, we have a deadline, and the deadline is June. And we can't do what other organizations have done. Chairman, you had told me the organization, Education Committee, how many million?
Yeah, 20 million, 4 years, Dallas achieves.
Dallas achieves 20 million, 4 years. We don't have 4 years, ladies and gentlemen. We basically have 6 months left. So I am ready to vote and decide, does the DISD need a charter or does not need a charter? Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Elizalde.
I'll keep my comments brief. As I'm listening to everyone, I'm asking myself the original question I had, which was, what are we trying to solve? What are we really trying to solve with this commission? And it really goes back, I think, also to something Commissioner Ranger said, which is, what is it that's in really what we were assigned to do? And I probably differ with many commissioners in terms of where I think governance and its importance stands in this conversation. And I have not made many comments because I know that it sometimes also creates, and my role here is not as a member of an administrative team with the district. My role here is that of a citizen and a taxpayer like everyone else. And I also heard that there are a lot of things we need to do differently. But I don't want to move to what I call a ready, fire, aim approach. We've identified that there are some issues, and then we implement something that isn't matching what the issue actually is. And so for me, frankly, right now my position is home rule is not going to solve the issues that have been brought forth, in my opinion. So that doesn't mean that I don't want to respond or to find a way to take action to resolve the issues that we do have before us. Because I certainly would be remiss if I said that those issues have not kept me up at night because of what I do during the day. Because they have. They trouble me greatly when I hear people do not feel valued in our district. If teachers don't feel valued, our kids suffer, period.
Amen.
No matter who's at Ross Avenue, me or anybody else. So if we get to the point where we're ready to take a position in terms of whether I think I would vote to write a charter, no, I won't vote to write a charter today, given the information I have right now. And I know that wasn't actually the question that was asked, but I'm going to go ahead and state where I am right now. But I don't know that I would vote to terminate our conversations, because I think whether it was expressly written or not, I think we do have, at a minimum, a duty to do something with information that people have come forth, whether it's through this body or any other body. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to, since I got to speak first, I will withhold any additional comments I have, and we'll go into second round. I will comment. It's 7:25. We'll try to get done by 8 tonight, and I'll just reserve my own thoughts. You've asked, why I'm bringing this forward. I'll be happy to respond. I know there was second round.
Mr. Chairman, should we take a recess?
No, I want to keep going, so if you have to get up, please do. Let's just keep going. So I'm going to, Commissioner Ranger, you've been patient. Did you, and again, I'm looking at the clock, and I know some of you have second round.
There are several things that are extremely troubling, but I'll just focus on a couple of things that just to throw into the mix of understanding about where we really are. I am astonished at the notion that this commission can just make it up on the fly. I find that so troubling that I really don't understand it, because we're not here by our own authority. I've seen, for lack of a better term, an amazing amount of input in a very short period of time in this community. And I didn't miss a meeting. And I didn't hear any even hint of a suggestion that there was any significant community support in this city in the forums that we provided for that input that would support the notion that the community wants us to convert an independent school district into a charter school district. And that is the question. To be or not to be. To be a charter school district or not to be a charter school district. To be an independent school district or not to be an independent school district. That is the only question before us. Now, if you convert that and expand your role, my position is you're violating the Texas Education Code. You're violating the board resolution that authorized this commission. And then I'd like to just throw in one other thing for you to remember. The mayor of this city spoke to a group of Hispanics way back in March or February of 14, I think. And this was a professional group. I mean, these were very outstanding citizens of this community. And the mayor went there to sell charter schools. He started talking about how terrible Dallas ISD schools were, how great charter schools were, and he was basically promoting charter schools. Well, one of the outstanding representatives who were there happened to question the mayor. The mayor got upset, angry, walked out on a very esteemed group of Hispanic citizens who were just there to listen to what he had to say about this issue. That was the beginning for anyone who's paying attention, if you want to understand what this is really about. This always was about an agenda centered on the Dallas ISD trustee board, certain trustees, one in particular, who wanted to use this process for a specific purpose to attack certain trustees on the board and to make it possible to dominate, control the board of directors of Dallas ISD so that a certain superintendent could be kept here and so that they would always be able to decide everything about this district. But I digress. The next thing that I'd like to mention. So much to say in so little time, so I won't take it. This commission is constituted illegally. Why do I say that? Because a judge said it. A judge in Dallas, Texas, rendered an opinion that the appointments to this commission are illegal. He issued a temporary restraining order. It was the AFT lawsuit. He issued a temporary restraining order, but he would not enjoin it permanently because he said the harm could not be proven. But the fact of the matter is, a court of law, a legal opinion, a decision has been rendered saying that y'all's commission was illegally appointed and it related specifically to the DAC. I would just like to commend to the commission. Anything you do on this commission will probably be challenged legally. And it will be on the basis that this commission was illegally appointed, that the DAC members were illegally appointed, just as the judge found. He just said you don't meet the test for a permanent injunction, so I cannot issue that because I'm a judge and I have to follow the law. I can't make it up. And so you didn't meet that test. But I do conclude these people were illegally appointed. Now, anything you do, regardless of what it is other than, you can make recommendations, you charter, etc., it will be challenged legally, and the likelihood of its being overturned is very great, even if you did it. Now, if we are illegally constituted, then it means that everything we're doing can be challenged, and it will be. So as a part of your thinking, I'm just saying this. The Hippocratic Oath is first, do no harm. We can do a lot of harm to this district, cause us a lot of pain, get us into a lot of lawsuits that we don't have to encounter just by making decisions that don't have to be made. Now, this is what I think about where we are at this moment. This commission should take whatever time it needs. I am fully in support of that. But it's very clear to me, I have enough information, I heard from the community, everybody was invited to participate in that process. I thought the commission did a decent job of trying to make that known, and yet we did not find any support for this. The only support for this came through a very small group of people, and even there, so far as the 49,000 signatures, if elections were overseen or investigated and you found over 40% of petitions found to be invalid, which was the case here, and we're here because of 17 petitions, in other words, the legal requirement was 17, and people were not properly informed about those petitions, etc. There are all kinds of ways that this will be an issue, and it will be raised. We can rest assured of that. Now, when it comes to the educational piece of this has nothing to do with education. There's absolutely no educational outcome. Nothing that we can recommend to anybody. Why are we paying a superintendent $300,000? You know, we're paying a staff to take care of the educational part of this district. We're not experts in education. We were here to decide whether or not this district should be converted to a charter school district, and that's it.
Okay.
So I think, am I going to be?
No, I'm just trying to get a time. Keep going, keep going.
What is that?
No, I'm just asking, trying to find out how many more minutes you feel you need.
Okay, give me 1 minute.
Yeah, because Commissioner Isenhusen just asked to be recognized.
Well, when I asked a minute ago,
I'm giving you the floor.
you did not yield the floor
No,
to me.
I'm giving you the floor.
Let me say something, Mr. Chairman. I'm a little bit concerned. We're supposed to be following Robert's Rules of Order, and in some ways we're not. Now, under Robert's Rules of Order, we don't have any prescribed order of speaking, but it's a courtesy, and I think I've deferred to
You have, and I recognize
over
that.
and over again.
You have, and I'm giving you the floor.
You know, sometimes it's important to be able to respond in the moment, because first of all, you're focused on that. But we shouldn't have to just wait. That's sort of changing Robert's Rules of Order.
Your point well taken. Keep going.
If I can remember my point, let's see. I'm at an age now where I don't.
Can I just say I'm entirely empathetic?
Young people don't understand.
No, they don't.
Thank you for the compliment.
The serious nature of this is this for me. Oh yes, education.
Yeah.
My goodness. Menticide. There's a crime being committed in education. It's not called, but could be described as menticide. Menticide is setting up an educational system in a way where we're pretending to be concerned about our kids, but what it is a power struggle. There's a power struggle within Dallas ISD. And this particular initiative is being used as an extension of that particular power struggle. As a matter of fact, that is just as plain as day. So I'm saying that it is not a proper use of this particular process. Sure, the legislatures are going to change some things. We know that in Austin. They have the authority, but that is precisely my point. We're not the legislature. We're here by order of the legislature and the board of directors. And if we make it up ourselves, then we're dishonoring this process and we're converting this process to something it was not intended to be. This was not intended to be an investigative Dallas Achieves Commission. We have one focus, and that is to make that decision. Now, I support the notion. If you want to take a year, but we can't take a year and a half. It did not mean that we had to take a year, and originally there were pressures for us to do this in a month or two.
Thank you.
Because we had to get this done. Well, we've taken almost 7 months. That's the majority of a year. 7 months on the 19th of January that we've been here. So I think we've allotted enough time to come to a conclusion. But in respect for the commission, if you really believe that you really need all of this time, fishing expeditions will get us nowhere if we don't focus on the real issue here. This is a governance issue. Governance meaning we're trying to determine whether or not you really believe it's worth playing Russian roulette with the lives of 160,000 students, doing something that no school district has ever done in the history of the state of Texas or in America, setting up public education for more of this to be used as a political football, as opposed to focusing on one simple question: where is the community support for this initiative? I haven't seen it.
No support.
There is no community support for this initiative. You're talking about democracy? You're talking about supplanting our judgment for the democracy we have just seen. Overwhelmingly, the community spoke against this. Last point, one of the best hearings we had was at Griner. I remember the Griner experience. I think that's where we had an interpreter. But anyway, there was a lot of participation there. And there was diverse participation. You had SPM, you had LULAC, you had teachers, you had parents. You had a very good mix. I didn't hear any support of any meaningful kind, even at that particular broad-based environment. I didn't hear any support for home rule, and I haven't heard any anywhere else, other than the notion that a petition. But so far as the opportunity, there has been none. And that is democracy to me. So I don't think we should precipitously just think that our role is to supplant our judgment for what we've heard in the community. And what we've heard in the community is they didn't express any desire to have it.
Okay. Commissioner Eisen-Newson, then Commissioner Freeman. Okay.
Thank you. I want to be clear that the law does speak to more than just governance. Which is why we set up the committees based on that law. It was accountability, it was budget, and it was education. And those are the 4 committees that we had. Mr. Chair, I would propose that we get reports from those committees by February the 16th to see if in those areas there is anything that we want to look at to move forward with either a charter. I'm still with my recommendations, Marcus, so I heard you very clearly. But I do think we do need to hear from those committees.
Okay.
I know that the governance subcommittee, I know that Kevin has done some work. I know that Lou has promised me he's going to get his report in. And I think we need to honor that work and share it with the total commission.
Okay.
Again, the 4 areas in the law speak to governance, accountability, budget, and educational programs. And we need to be very conscious about making sure that we are looking at each of those areas. Thank you.
I'd like to respond to that. Briefly, very briefly. I interpret the law a little bit different. The law is speaking to once you decide, you have to decide the threshold question. It's like sitting on a jury and deciding you're not going to follow the judge's instructions. The law is saying once you make that threshold determination, once you have decided that you're going to do a charter, then these are the areas that you have to construct and write the charter in. If you start doing those things before you have made the threshold determination, you are presumptively writing a charter without having decided to write a charter.
Okay.
So I'm saying it is not in order to pursue things that are filling in the blanks of a charter, and this commission has never authorized a charter to be written, and that's the danger of that. The law does not say that you start writing a charter. The law presumes that you're going to make a decision to write that charter. Now, once 8 people of this commission, if you all decide to do that, I will write a dissent to that. Whatever is done, I will write a dissent. But the point is, you have that authority. But the decision needs to be made, and then you need a certain amount of time to write that charter. Certain people have to have certain expertise in order to do that. And if you wish to do that, that is an appropriate thing to do. That was the whole purpose. Now, finally, the chair brought up this issue about making some preliminary determination in January. I was sitting here, and the chair said, hopefully by January, we might be able to have a preliminary review of all of this and determine whether or not we would be ready to make a decision or something to that effect, not the exact words. It was because of that that I attempted to draft a possible frame for that consideration. And I think that was appropriate. I agree with that. And I think we should do it, even if you decide not to do it. It is perfectly okay, even if the vote is 14-1, because I will be voting against it. I think we ought to take a vote just to make it clear to the public. This commission is on record as saying we do not feel that we should make that decision at the moment. We're going to continue down the road. Then the public understands. We have discussed it and you're not ready to do it.
Okay. I'm going to, commissioners, and then I'm going to be sure who else would like to join the conversation. Can you just, I'm going to let Commissioner, and then I will get to you, Commissioner Freeman.
Just a couple of things. One, my proposal is still on the floor for us to look and hear from the various subcommittees on February the 16th. I don't personally know how you decide whether you're going to do a charter or not a charter without information about what impact it's going to have or not have. That's my second thing. Thirdly, because we are talking about legalities, what is legal, what the law says, what it does not say, it was my understanding that we were going to be conferring with Mr. Thompson whenever we had a disagreement on law, because he would be the final authority on what the law says. And so I am proposing, Mr. Chair, that you contact Mr. Thompson to answer those questions for us, please. Thank you.
I have actually, first of all, 2 questions just to clarify, I guess, some rules. If Commissioner Ranger presents his resolution and we actually do end up voting on it at our next meeting or at any meeting, just as a point of clarification, would there be debate on the issue, or would it just be a vote?
By Robert's Rule of Order, I think it would have to be debate.
Okay.
I'm sorry, would you just ask?
So the question was, just for clarification, if a resolution is presented, would there be debate on the issue, or would it just be just a vote?
No, it's a debate. You move second and be thoroughly debated.
Okay, and so I guess 2 things is, one, I agree with Commissioner Esten-Newsome. I'd like to see a document before I decide whether or not to support something, but also I think that, Commissioner Ranger's right that presenting a resolution saying we have decided not to pursue a charter frames this discussion in a context of what we're actually arguing about here. So we're not arguing whether or not, we're arguing whether or not we should support or not support his resolution. It makes it specific and focused. I think that it's a good thing to have that sort of thing. I also think that the way that his resolution is framed, it's not saying if I were to vote against Commissioner Ranger's resolution, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like your resolution is saying we should not pursue creating a charter. So if I were to vote against that, I'm not saying we should absolutely produce a charter. I'm simply saying I don't agree that we should terminate the discussion. Is that correct?
Yes, what the resolution is actually saying, it was taken from your resolution of the board, where the board said the commission has the sole discretion and authority to determine. No, this is the board talking to us. This is not Marcus Ranger. This is the resolution that's appointed us from Dallas ISD trustees, all 9 unanimously adopted this. says the commission has the sole discretion and authority to determine that no home rule school district charter need be adopted.
Well, if I just clarify, I totally understand that. I guess what I'm trying to say is, if I vote against the resolution that says resolved that the Dallas concludes that no home rule district charter need be adopted, right, which is what the resolution that Commissioner Rangers presented, I'm not saying that I am for writing a charter. I'm just saying I'm against terminating the discussion of writing a charter. I just want to clarify.
Yes, you're saying.
So then I guess if I could make a suggestion, since what we're talking about now is very fruitful, but it's also going to be the same conversation we have when we debate the resolution, whether or not we should continue tonight or whether or not we should actually decide whether or not we're going to look at this resolution and then frame the discussion in terms of this specifically. If that makes sense. I mean, if we want to carry on, I'm totally fine with that. I just think if we're going to have a resolution presented, whether we vote for or against it, we might as well be talking about it in those terms.
If I might, Commissioner.
Go ahead, after your remark.
No, I'll yield to you because I want to respond specifically to a path forward. We have an idea, a proposal, specifically. So, Commissioner Blackburn, then Commissioner Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we've reframed our conversation, and we've gone way back to the beginning. Perhaps last time, if it wasn't in my long speech, then if I at least thought it would be, that we are having the argument of whether or not we should sign the petition. That, hey, is this something we should investigate or not? And we're going back to it, charter or no charter. And in fact, it wasn't until earlier in our conversation I was looking something up, in that we seem to be missing our job. And to go to what Commissioner Ranger said of, we have our authority from the legislation as well as the legislators. Or I know he said legislators, so I'm not sure. But if I look in the legislation, in terms of the authority or the responsibility of the Board of Trustees, and I appreciate, again, and I've said a number of times in our meetings, I appreciate the gratitude of the Board of Trustees to give us this room, to give us what they have given us, because they don't have to do that. But their authority was to appoint us, and after that, to not give us any instructions. I'll read from what we do and why we're here is from Chapter 12 of the Education Code. And if I go to Section 12, Section 12.015, and talks about Charter Commission, that Section A says, not later than the 30th day after the date of receipt of a petition or adoption of a resolution under Section 12.014, the Board of Trustees of the school district shall appoint 15 residents of the district to serve on the commission to frame a charter for the district. And so to say we're here to decide whether or not we should have a charter first, and if we want to have a charter, then we're going to frame it. Well, that initial question is not in the legislation. And so it's telling us our reason to be here is to write a charter. That's why 15 of us are here. And I'll skip, it has some requirements in Section 15, but then to go to subsection C, I'm sorry, Section B, but subsection C, the Charter Commission must complete a proposed charter not later than the first anniversary of the date of its appointment. Now, we may be able to interpret that some way, but then when it starts saying must, well, we all agree that we really have to listen to what they're saying. And so, like Commissioner Vesey said earlier, we can take this advantage and turn it upside down and use this opportunity however we want. And to say that, hey, we're going to take away this authority that of people who wanted to take over the district, well, we're going to use this vehicle to do something different. Well, we can do that. Or we can say we're going to create a charter in which we say all girls get to go to school and boys, you have to move to a different city because I only have daughters. But in that case, then we throw it out. I'm sorry, you do have only all sons. But in that case, then we put it out there. And I don't want us to take away the democracy of the citizens, because it does say that we're here to frame the charter. Once we frame the charter, say here it is, then our citizenry has that option. Do we keep things the way they are, or do we vote in favor of this charter proposal? Not charter in general, but citizens decide, do we like this charter proposal that this commission had to put together? They had to put together a good one, or they could have put together a bad one. But that's our charge, to create a charter. in this opportunity, I want to create the best possible charter that will do as much good for, let me even say, the system. And that system, because I can't go into a classroom, and that's where the real work happens. I'm not sure that what we're doing will specifically touch the classroom, but in terms of the system that makes everything outside that classroom great for the administration, make the administration work easier for the schools, the district, whatever it may be. That's my goal. And again, I may decide at the end, hey, we're going to torpedo this. Let me give a proposal that will make everyone hate it. But at least our charge is to create a charter by June 19th.
I'd like to respond to that.
He's been patiently waiting. Would you?
Well, I'd like to respond.
Oh, to him. Okay.
Yes.
Are you okay?
That's right.
Okay.
Marcus?
Marcus? Yeah, I guess you.
No, Ryan, go.
No, okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Ranger.
I'd spoken to Mr. Weiss during the holidays, after our last meeting. And one of my concerns was when we start getting into the legality of this terminology, I felt real uncomfortable that we didn't have Mr. Thompson here. I think anything that's in writing should be discussed with him present, because I think it's just, I don't think it's a commissioner's prerogative, or I don't think it's anyone's duty as a commission to write something that's a legal document that represents the commission. I think that's why the district appointed Mr. Thompson, and I think we need to utilize his expertise, because he is an expert in this for the state and for all the districts that are challenging the state for more money. So I think we would feel more comfortable if the process went through the attorney appointed for the commission.
Might I just, as a point of reference, I've already invited him to come on the 20th, anticipating that wherever we wind up tonight, there might be questions about whether we're compelled to or not. I did not hear that, but I appreciate your reading into it, and my understanding from when he was asked that when he was here at the beginning was we were not required to write a charter. So he's going to probably bring his associate. They're going to come for the whole meeting and try to address some of the technical issues. I just, before I speak, I just wanted to clarify that invitation's been extended and been out, and he's already going to make himself and Lisa, Miss McBride, available. So I'm just going around the room.
I had just asked to respond.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, please. Yeah, just give me a minute.
I think I asked for the floor.
Yeah, you have it. Yeah, yes. You have it. Yeah. I was just.
I'm getting a little bit concerned about our process. Robert's Rules of Order is supposed to be followed, and it's very clear. Anyone may ask for the floor. It's up to the chair to determine to respect that request or not. But there is no Robert's Rules of Order mandated procedure that we've got to sit up and wait when people are not asking for the floor. That is rewriting Robert's Rules of Order.
I agree. Your point's well taken.
And then, we old timers, we tend to forget. And, so. I just want to make it very clear. I truly believe in democracy. I don't know of anything that has any hope for the human species other than people coming together and resolving issues intelligently, thoughtfully, deliberately, and then voting. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. You respect the result and you move on. But when you short-circuit the process and you make all these presumptive things, presumptive actions, you do things out of order meaning the sequence. I don't mean anything wrong, I just mean the sequence of things. Some things have to be done before other things. Now, what I'm suggesting is this. It's not a matter of interpretation. If you want to spend more money on Mr. Thompson to come and repeat what he's already said, I would not be in favor of that. If we have a new question to ask, I would be in favor of that. Mr. Thompson, it's on the tape of the Dallas ISD trustees. The trustees asked him the same questions. They said, does that mean that they have to do a charter? He clearly said no to the Dallas ISD trustees. That is the reason they put in this resolution that you don't have to write a charter. It was because they had consulted and paid for already Mr. Thompson's advice that we do not have to write a charter. That issue has been addressed. He has thoroughly talked about it, and it is on the record. So I don't see why we should re-spend our money on the same question. But if you have a new question, I fully support that if it's an important legal question. But since we have already visited that, I just want to make that clear because it sounds like we're saying we don't know that Mr. Thompson has already decided. He believes that you have the right not to do a charter. He told us that. He told the Board of Trustees that. Same thing. And I don't think we should spend more money on the same question.
Before you make a motion, I'd like to just comment on what I've heard, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah, by all means.
So let me begin by saying how much I appreciate this conversation. I think we have, without sounding trite, put a lot of cards on the table. And we've been working to this conversation for 7 months. And I am deeply appreciative of the directness of the conversation and the various points of view. And like you, I have given a lot of thought to how we move forward. So yes, I did ask you to think about having some sense of direction, because the way mine works is if you agree on something conceptually based on what you know, then the rest would flow from that. So that is how I frame the conversation, a what-if statement. If you think you would like to propose a charter, I think we are obligated to write it, not just to say we should have a charter, because that leaves someone else with that proposition. And if that's a flow, then we have a certain amount of time to get that work done. If in the resolution is not to do a charter, then the question has been raised, what happens after that? Can we continue the conversation or not? And if we continue the conversation, what is the outcome? And then how does that get arrived at, assuming it has legitimacy and validity, and that we can move forward? And that is how I was pushing you to think about it. I'm not hearing clarity that we have a consensus that you're prepared to take a vote on what was laid down in the 15th meeting. Looking at people who are unsure about what to do. I will say that at the end of the day, we are going to have to vote. My personal opinion, and I try to be neutral, is that our charge is to vote this up or down. That we can move around it, we can massage it. Information isn't perfect. When do you ever know enough to make a decision? I'm looking at lawyers, 3 of them to my right, 1 to my left. I'm looking at educators and business people and teachers and retirees. When do we know enough to take an up and down vote? There is no magic date. In my mind, it was midpoint, kind of like a midterm, because we're in an education world, so I picked January. It could be February if you need some more time. But this, I am certain that the charge, and I will agree with Commissioner Ranger, is that at some point we're going to vote up or down to do a charter. And whether we want to pack it with a lot of things that we might or might not wind up being litigated against, I don't worry about that. I do not worry about what the legislature might do. I am of the 12-step program. The first step is you don't worry about that which you can't control. And I won't be held hostage because of something that might happen in Austin or something that might be litigated. What I would expect from each of you, as I expect for myself, the best, most informed opinion about whether to do a charter that you can bring to this. And then when you walk away, you will have honestly said to yourself, I thought about this, I voted by conscience, I voted what I thought was in the best interest of the children of DISD, whether I have full or incomplete knowledge. Now, whether that's January 20th I take full responsibility. If you are not ready and I'm not sensing that there is a consensus to do that, then that certainly is something I asked for in this meeting, and that certainly does not have to be put on the agenda. But there will be a day where we will have to take a vote, whether it's the 20th or it's some other date. At some point in the process, we have to tell each other that we want to do this charter, and decide how we're going to go formulate it. Personally, I don't know what more I need to know. I will just say, in terms of governance, I've looked at the proposals that have been given to us. I've read deeply about it. I am of the human frailty school that regardless of the form of the government, who gets elected is unknown. Who gets elected is unknown. There is a phrase in Latin, and whoever knows Latin, I apologize. It's a CUI with a little omelet, B-O-N, right? How do you pronounce it?
Qui.
Yeah, qui bono. And basically it translates, this is from a very famous Roman council, to whose benefit does it accrue? Roughly translated. To whose benefit does this process accrue? I don't know the answer to that, but I've been asking myself on my break, qui bono? Qui bono.
It's a
To
dead
whose
language.
benefit?
There's not really proper pronunciation.
Okay, I didn't take Latin. But the question is to whose benefit is this about? And I don't know the answer to that, but it's important to me before I cast my ballot. And so there was a proposal, but not a motion yet, to defer. We can have additional legal questions. So to answer Commissioner Ranger, one thing I was interested in was we had a very well thought out and detailed proposal by the SAVE, Support Our Public Schools. Someone spent a lot of energy on it. I did not fully comprehend it because of the legalese that was in it. I'm not a lawyer. I didn't know what all those little cross references meant. So I have asked the attorneys to come on the 20th and explain it to me. And hopefully you'll sit and listen and let me go to school, because I have to confess, I've read it and I didn't fully comprehend it. And I think that and if they're here and you have other questions, we owe that proposal. It was fully vetted. And if they were the initiators of this process, the way I understood their presentation, as well as from trustees who were in favor of this, or a trustee, is that governance was driving this. And whether we know more or less about intentionality, we will know, and I know, I won't say you know, but I know, intention. And the question is, does the form of governance matter? Does it matter if you run unopposed, which I'm on record at asking in May, as opposed to running unopposed in November? Does it matter how trustees are removed as well as elected to you? Then that matters. Does it matter about causality and how they could be removed or not? That's what's being put to us. Now, that doesn't mean we have to limit our own thinking to that if we were to go forward with a charter. No. But at least I need to understand better exactly what was proposed to us, because they were the people who collected these petitions. And I think they represent those 49,000 people. And they did it ably. They submitted a document. We got it. I've thought about it. And on the 20th, hopefully, my particular questions can be addressed. But at the end of the day, all 15 of us are going to cast the vote. Whether it's on the 20th or not, that's something I'm trying to get guidance on as I think about the agenda. I think, again, Commissioner Ranger was absolutely helpful in putting down a proposal, whether we vote on it, on the 20th or not. He acted in good faith and understood where I was trying to get us to come to some insight about where we want to go forward. And at some point, if it's not on the 20th, and I'm not hearing a lot of love for that idea, then we can move it down the road, and I'm prepared to accept that as chair. You have been very helpful to me tonight about where your uncertainty is.
Point of order.
Yes, sir.
So if you would clarify for me.
Yeah.
The only process we have is Robert's Rules of Order, and I think, I've forgotten when it was, at one of our early meetings, I brought up the question of individual commissioners' opportunity to place things on the agenda.
Yes, sir.
and it was well received, and my intention there was to make it possible for any of the process to me, if this is going to be a democratic process, the purpose of Robert's Rules of Order is to protect political minorities, meaning just because you don't like an idea doesn't mean you kill it. It means that you resolve it.
Right.
You vote on it, and that person has, for instance, I'd like to hear what other commissioners have to propose. And if they wanted something to be voted on, I think they're entitled to a vote.
I'm great.
Now, I would like to reiterate my desire to vote on this.
Okay.
Excuse me. Yes.
No, to be recognized after you talk.
Oh, after.
Yeah.
I thought you were trying to make.
Yeah, I'm going to go.
I haven't finished.
I know, I'm just doing order.
I apologize.
No, I just thought there was
keep
something
going.
that he really needed to say.
No,
And I don't mind yielding if you do.
No.
That's what democracy is. You lead, you yield.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Keep going.
What I'm saying is, I want the process to be open here. I think we're getting a little bit too impeding open dialogue here. I want to know what Mr. Friedman has to present. And I want to vote on it at a certain point. In other words, specific recommendations should be able to be presented by any commissioner here. And then if that commissioner wants it to be resolved, then it's placed on there for a vote. And I think that's the way we should proceed. All we ask is, just as it was suggested here, that we have this meeting to discuss this today. You did set it to be discussed for today, and then it's supposed to be on the agenda for the 20th. I'm asking that that be honored. And I would like it to be honored for all commissioners to be able to place an item on the agenda if they want to, for us to resolve. To me, there is no democracy until you vote. If all you do is, wink, wink, and we're just sitting up here talking, where is the democracy? But democracy is a conclusive result where you have expressed officially an opinion. So I'm uncomfortable with this notion of our not ever making official. This is really important to our children and our parents and our community, and it's okay with me. I'm not offended at all. As a matter of fact, I would be happier with a 14-1 result that shows me that you truly were not ready to vote, and I lose that particular vote. It doesn't offend me at all. As a matter of fact, it just establishes this is where the commission is at that point. So I'm asking that it be on the agenda, that we take an official vote, and that other commissioners be allowed the same right to place an item on the agenda.
Okay, fair enough. Can you yield to Commissioner?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, I had my hand up for a moment. I do have a motion that I move that we hear from subcommittees on February the 16th and their findings to date, the governance subcommittee, the accountability subcommittee, and the education subcommittee, as well as the budget subcommittee, so that I, and hopefully other commissioners, will have the information they need to move forward on the question at hand.
Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Point of order?
Yes, sir.
So we're not posted for.
This is February 16th.
Oh, is that for the, right. But we're
For
still
her
not
motion.
posted. Right, but we're still not posted to have a vote on something like that.
You mean,
That's a part of order.
you mean for her motion to be voted on tonight?
Right, 'cause
Right.
it's not on
Right,
the
right.
agenda.
Yeah.
Sorry, Shirley, I don't mean.
No,
to
I
block.
don't
I'm just
have-
making sure that.
No, I don't
we're
have a
all
problem.
clear
I don't have
that
a
we can't be
problem with
voting
that.
on stuff. we can-
Listen, I don't have a problem with that. Put it on the agenda for February the 20th, January 20th. Thank you very much. And thank you,
If
Ms.
your
Flores.
proposal is to do that, I'm supportive of
Yeah.
it, we just can't vote.
No, no.
Right.
But we can
We
vote on it
understand. I think-
January 20th.
Yeah, I think,
Thank you,
so
dear.
noted. I've
Thank
heard Commissioner Ranger, your point is well taken. That was,
Thank you.
was going, who would like to go next? This is all constructive. I'm sorry, Commissioner Garza, you've been patient.
Oh, thank you. I just want to second Commissioner Ranger. When I was on the Board of Trustees, we had a rule that stated you needed so many trustees before you put an agenda item if the chair didn't do so. We decided early on we would not have such rules, so in my mind that means if there's one commissioner that wants something on there, we should honor that I feel that we should honor Commissioner Ranger because at the last meeting he was he was prepared. And he held off the 5th and said let's do it the 20th, and The consensus of the group then was to do that, so I feel very strongly we should honor Commissioner Ranger's request.
Commissioner Sandell.
I just wanted to reiterate, I don't think I'm either disingenuous or lazy, but I might be both.
No,
I
you're
do
not.
not feel I have enough information, and I'm a lawyer too, and I have lots of information, but I don't have enough information to make an up or down vote on a charter or what it might say or anything. Just because we have to vote before June 19th doesn't mean we have to vote next week. We don't have to vote until, whatever, but we have lots of time. There's no reason that those of us who really want more information and expert stuff, especially about charters, could not get that information to decide if we want to write a charter. I don't have enough information, and I've immersed myself in this stuff. So that's just, again,
Yeah,
my
I
opinion.
think if it's properly moved and seconded and there's a debate, then you would make your case and vote against it. I think that has been the exchange tonight, that to have the opportunity
That's fine.
for everyone to vote it up or down. Doesn't mean it has to pass. I think
understand. I
Commissioner
was
Ranger's
just
been pretty straightforward with that.
making my opinion.
And the same thing with Commissioner Isom-Newsom's motion. You know, we make a motion, we second. In fact, the point tonight was to help me structure the agenda for the 20th, which you were doing. I didn't preclude anything. Just trying to get your temperature, and I think I've taken it pretty well.
Mr. Can I mention another thing? Not on this topic.
Wait, I just did.
Well, you were next.
Yeah, Commissioner Freeman.
I was just going to reiterate again that I don't think that particular resolution is an up or down vote. It's a down or anything but down vote.
Well, you're going to vote for or against it, is what I meant.
But I mean, what I'm saying is to vote against the resolution doesn't mean you're for producing a charter.
No.
It just means you're against terminating the process.
Right.
So it's not either we want a charter or we don't, that particular vote.
Yeah, we will debate it in full.
And get clarification.
And get the intention of the maker of the motion. But that will be the debate, so that everyone is fully informed about how they would like to cast their vote. You know, we don't need to play that out tonight. We're going to do that on the 20th. Commissioner Mendez, did you?
Yes. Well,
Oh, wait. Would you yell Commissioner Ranger?
Most definitely, sure.
To Commissioner
Yes.
Mendez.
for starters, I don't have Alzheimer's, but I have some timers. So, anyway.
I'm gonna use that.
Anyway, I wanted, man, it just happened right now. My main concern right now is that, yes, we do need more information, but at the same time, we need to get that information as soon as possible because we do have a deadline. And I don't want to make a vote, in May, and then we have to, if we do decide to write the charter, have a month to write the charter. So, yes, we do need more information, but we need to, we all need to do our homework and do it as fast as possible. So.
Okay. Any other comments? Again, it's been very instructive. Before I ask for a motion to it.
No, I had.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't get back to you. I'm not taking good notes.
I would like to support the notion, if you all decide to proceed further down this road, that you do take up the SOPS charter. It was presented to us. We're acting as if we don't have it. It seems we have a SOPS proposal. I think you ought to look at that SOPS proposal. I will be against it. I think it's terrible. But you may think differently. But let's look at that. But beyond that, a totally different issue I'd like to raise and ask that we put it on the agenda on the 20th for discussion only.
Okay.
Since it appears that the majority will probably not want to make a decision at this point not to go further, so I'm assuming you will go further, but I really appreciate the vote. The Redistricting Commission of the City of Dallas, when they were going through the redistricting process, they found that one of the problems institutionally was that city councilmen were interfering with the redistricting commissioners and that they were somehow influencing, or someone felt that they were. One of their recommendations was they adopted a amendment that said that during the course of this commission, no city council person will be allowed to speak with a commissioner, and no commissioner will speak with a city council person during the tenure of this commission. I would like us to discuss that as to whether or not we need that. In other words, a simple code of conduct. Why? To keep politics out of this. That's why. In other words, why would we be talking to trustees who are, we're supposed to be independent? Why would we perhaps be under pressure, not pressure, but just conversation unnecessarily, when we ought to have the desire to preserve our integrity and make this decision independently without continuing back and forth with trustees of Dallas ISD. So I'd like that just to be discussed.
Done.
That's,
I move for adjournment.
Okay, is there a second? Meeting's adjourned at 8:15. Unanimous.
Bob, there's a mistake on the minutes.
They're all subject to correction, so at the next, get with Dino.